Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. Flooding has remained a recurring decimal in the nation's ecosystem, and this 2023 the momentum is already high with most states on red alert. This is now putting stakeholders on their toes as precautionary measures are fast gaining traction towards mitigating the annual disaster. Tonight, key players will be joining us on NTA Tuesday Live as the rise in water levels takes center stage. Management, control and prevention is uppermost. But before we go into the discussion, let's get to see this report put together by correspondent Larry Bilay.
There are three types of flooding in Nigeria: the fluvial flooding, which occurs when rivers overflow their banks; coastal flooding, when water from marine environment submerges low-lying adjoining lands; and pluvial flooding, which happens with intense rainfall. This type of flooding occurs at the peak of the rainy season in most states in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, in some states, these types of flooding occurs simultaneously in different parts of the states. There is also rapid urbanization as a result of constant rural-urban migration, poor urban planning, and drainage systems, including solid waste management. Despite these challenges, proactive plans to prevent flooding appears to be missing in some states, as they seemingly wait for flooding to wreak havoc before needed interventions. Some have also argued that the issue of disaster management has become scientific and requires a structural management approach to mitigate it.
It is because of the land use approach of everybody. We have sealed the natural drain God created. We have concreted everything. We have cut this natural storage, all the trees, all the grasses. Everybody is dumping almost 100% of the rainfall into the public space. No drainage infrastructure anywhere in the world can be designed or constructed for 100% rainfall event. Why we understand this is for the immediate term. Keep the conveyor systems moving, the drain. Clear them. When there's rainfall, it will be flash, not stagnant. 1 hour, 2 hours, the water will go.
Environmental experts believe addressing the problem of flooding requires active participation of all.
If people must move to higher ground, who will allocate those lands? It is government. If the disasters become so great that it needs the ecological funds, who will do that? It is the government. Now, if people build on floodplains, who will remove them? We cannot take the laws into our hands. It is the government. So, I agree also with you that with the laxity we've seen in government response in addressing these floods and other underlying issues, a lot of times people end up taking the responsibility for these things.
Residents have also been advised to hone measures put in place by authorities to mitigate flooding in their area, as this will sustain the projects, check devastation caused by flash floods, and reduce funding involved in flood management. In Lagos, Larry Bilay.
All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Just a quick reminder that at some point in time you can join in the discussion, but when it gets to that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure. For now, let me introduce our guest. We'd like to welcome back to this program Professor Mansur Bako Matazu, is the Director General of NIMET, Nigerian Meteorological Agency. Thanks for being here again.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
We're joined tonight by Victor Omofai. He's Commissioner for Environment, Kogi State. Mr. Omofai, thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir, and viewers at home.
Let me welcome a regular geologist on this program, Dr. Kana Ahmed Abubakar. Thanks for being here tonight. All right. And also joining us is Alhassan Nuhu, Director, Relief and Rehabilitation of NEMA, that's the National Emergency Management Agency. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
All right. So, here we are with tonight's edition, Mitigating Floods. The waters have started rising again. And I think it was a couple of weeks back.
Yes, precisely.
Yes, that we had you here on this program, DG Naimet. And
Yes.
since then, we have noticed some rise.
Indeed.
And right, so let's take it from that premise.
Oh, okay. Thank you, and good evening, viewers. As discussed last few weeks, that July up to September, that's the 3 months, July, August, September, are the wettest months in our rainy season, especially in the northern parts of the country. And we've seen build-up of these rains in most states in the north, with some pockets of dry spell, because presently we're experiencing El Nino globally. We've seen extreme weather condition in US, Australia, part of Asia, and Europe inclusive. So we're also having such impact and shocks within the country of extreme events. Many states in the north have been experiencing well above normal rainfall, and with this now created a lot of flood waters in form of flash floods and fluvial flood, as mentioned by the last reporter. States like Borno and Yobe, even though it's within the mid of the rainy season, are presently experiencing dry spell. And this is part of what we've also already highlighted during our January release of our seasonal rainfall predictions. And this phenomena is also very injurious to farmers, as flood is also. I've seen in Borno a lot of efforts, including spiritual efforts to pray for Almighty
just
God.
a few days ago, we
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
the Shehu of Borno leading
prayers. Such prayers. So,
divine intervention.
as for us in NAMED, we're working very hard with the other enabling agencies like NEMA and NISA, and we are present during the last Nigerian Governors Forum with NEMA, whereby we emphasize on effective collaborations. In this era of climate change, we need to work together between state and federal governments, and then state governments also need to coordinate effectively with the last mile communities at the local government levels. Our own will continue to provide updates in short-term update, medium and long-term updates. But definitely this year is an El Nino year, and we are bound to see these extreme events in form of floods and dry spell that will persist.
I know we've asked this over and over again, but it does seem as if not all are taking it seriously. It would seem that in a place like Borno State, for instance, some farmers went ahead and planted. Now, with the dry spell, they're facing a situation of wilting of those crops.
Yeah, and that's the essence of utilization of this simple scientific information, because in the document that we have published, we were able to translate it, and we've done some downscaling activities, roving workshops, emphasizing that for most of those states, especially in extreme northern states, they should watch and plant at that planting window, and that is the onset dates. So in that document, we provided those dates, and within those dates, if you plant your crop, you're bound to gain a lot of advantages, and then there will be optimum also growth and eventually yield. But we need to get an entry point to the states. And with that, we'll be able to provide state-level forecast with specific advisories to those, and if well ingested, to really reduce some of this, because we're going to provide what we call climate-smart agricultural practices, which include the utilization of drought-resistant yields, these varieties. They are very much available with some of this research institute in Abuja, IAR, NEROS, and some of them. and also some of the farming techniques that will be able to conserve moisture during this window of dry spell. But presently, Borno, Yobe, and parts of Bauchi and Gombe are experiencing these pockets of dry spell lasting up to 16 days. And that is very bad for farmers, while other parts are battling with rising water levels.
So, I see. Well, let's go over to Victor Mafai, the Commissioner for Environment in Kogi State. And once we're talking about these matters, Kogi is known for its perennial challenges with flooding, and despite all the warnings, first let's find out what's the situation like. Any worries? I mean, so many would say, of course there would be, but take us through it.
Okay, thank you, sir. It's a known fact that Kogi State, by our geographical location, that we are prone to this menace that we're talking about. And just to quickly add to what Prof. earlier said, rising in Kogi State, we have an early warning system as a alert that gives us the rising of this water. And so our takings today, precisely July 18th, 2023, we have 6.26. 6.26. That's the meter for today. Yesterday we had 6.61. And so you now discover that it's rising gradually. We now try to, to compare with what we had last year. As at this time of last year, July 17, we had 4.31 meters. July 18th last year, 2022, where we had that severe occurrence, it was 4.28 meters. Today we have 6.62.
Wow.
So you can now see the difference. So surely we have a rising. There's no two way about that. And by location, like I said, we always face this problem. Don't forget the fact that we have the two largest rivers in Africa, Niger and Benue, coming together in Lokoja, precisely Kogi State. And so with that, you know that we are prone to this problem. But then, NIMED made us to understand that this year is going to be more of a flash flood and urban. And by the time you talk about the urban aspect of it, you are talking about human factors. And what are these human factors? Then it is there you talk about how do we maintain a waste system? How do we desilt our drainages? How do we try to ensure that deforestation is not setting in our various states? Again, you discover that so many problems associated with waste management are there in the states. And so as states, those are our focus for now.
And if you add to that, people who interfere with the part of the water, people who carry out construction in the right of,
yes, that's why I said human factors. You see so many people coming to build where they are not supposed to. That's the river course. And so the people who build along the coast stand that risk. You even discover that so many will just see a land, even close to a river, you decide to, thinking that it's cheap and nobody is taking money from them. Then you discover that so many too will build where the river is supposed to, which it's not supposed to be.
It's the right of way of the river, but the water finds its level.
And water will definitely find its way, find its level. And so these are problems we are facing. And I know in Kogi State we have Bureau of Land who equally, and in collaboration with town planning, who are saying to what could be done to at least mitigate the effect.
Let's come to Dr. Kana. Well, again, from the scientific point of view, take Kogi as an example. You know, where its position makes it prone to all of this. However, what can be done to maintain, you know, what they say is you find a middle way between nature's cause and the activities of man. Is it possible? Is there any scientific way to manage this?
Thank you very much for that question. To go on specific on the presentation of the Honorable Commissioner, yes, they are at the point of a point of meeting of the two greatest rivers, according to him. I don't know where he has gotten those data that River Benue and River Niger are the largest river. But be that is me, there are mitigating ways to be able to address that. That is to reduce the flow of water to Lokoja. We have said this severally. If you take it from the River Benue side, the Cameroon inflow, the two flanks, the one from central Cameroon coming to Kasanala, and then the one that comes through Yola. There are a lot of write-offs, a lot of studies that dams should be created so as to reduce the flow of water to Lokoja. There has been a lot of writing also from the other Niger flank also, through the other tributaries. And there are a lot of writings that some of these rivers that are within the state, that are major contributors to this major drainage system, state government should be able to create sort of coffer dams in those particular areas. And I think that was what led to the setting of the committee, of the National Committee on Flood last year, headed by Professor Adanu. And I think studies are ongoing so that these particular schedules, some that is going to come from the federal, some that come to the state. So, but you know, in characteristic manner where we are, the issue of continuity and then policy, has always been the major problem. If not, most of the discussion we're doing, it has always been 2 steps forward, 10 steps backwards. If not, we've said it several in this program that countries that have experienced worse situation than ours, Nigeria, we are very lucky in the sense that even the Lokoja you are talking about, at the normal time, what is the water level in Lokoja? He has just mentioned about 6.62. When we said it in this program, there are countries living 6 meters below sea level, and they're able to manage this situation. And it took them a very long time, over 40 years, to be able to address. Now, from what we had in 2012 and then 2022 last year, what are the lessons that we have learned to start implementing, even it means snail movements? These are the issues that are on the table. We always try to cry, but all the engineering solutions are all there. So, and then to go back to the other aspect of the issue of overflowing, he has said it all. What can we do? What are the kind of models to be able to develop location by location? Like for the Maiduguri you are talking about, yes, Maiduguri, interestingly again, and said, the Al-Kanemi did a special prayers a few days ago. But I want to put it to DG that a NISA team were in Lafia a few days ago to uptake data from their loggers, which are standalone. I happen to be there. I monitored them when they were in Jigawa. When they were in Jigawa, I said, when are you going to Maiduguri? They said they are not going because the system in Maiduguri area was installed by Action Against Hunger. And the system they did there is more like a telemetric system using the Nigerian network, MTN and the rest. And you just uptake it through the network. So I now asked them, what is the water level now, the static water level in those areas? Ironically, the data that is showing there, in terms of groundwater, there is a rise. Yes, that is it. Water irony. Water level is increasing, there is more buoyancy. And now, when you now take it to the issue of Lake Chad, which is believed to be receding from 100% to 1/3, and you're talking about even issue of interbasin transfer, issue excess water from Lacto Dam coming to Lanzaki to be diverted to that place. Now water level is increasing. Now if you now to attribute it to the NIMET report, then there is a concurrence because there is that belief that the rainfall will increase this year. But physically, in that particular corridor, there has not been rainfall. Is there any connectivity from the ground These are another issue. And that leads you to what we have, that most of the river basins in Nigeria that we have, which are about 12, are predicated based on the hydrological area, which we have 8. But now that's why we have the groundwater basin. There's bad possibility. It's not raining in Maiduguri. It's possible in certain adjoining places. There's connectivity of transboundary groundwater system, which is different from surface waters. So there are so many theories. So each particular location will have a different model. Then if you take Maiduguri as a case study again, yes, Maiduguri has not started experiencing heavy rain. When it starts having, ironically, you start having kind of flood in Maiduguri, which is urban. Now, we've said it severally, the issue of topological factors. Each town should be able to start having a model. We should be able to have resources to say, okay, Maiduguri's case, we should be able to deploy money to do a comprehensive study. Maiduguri is almost undulating town. It's not like just Plateau where it is a highland with flat surfaces. How do you address that? How do you create maps that like a kind of a drainage map for the whole town? If you do it in phases and in such a way that finally where does it spill away out of the town? Look at the case of Lagos. I saw in the clip somebody has put in a sort of a pump or a submersible pump inside the south, dewatering. Yes, in Netherlands, which we have spoken severally here, if you go to Netherlands, water corporations, state water agencies function, apart from providing water, is also for monitoring stations. That's why they have big pumps, big submersible pumps of maybe 100, 200 horsepower there in the water corporation. As soon as the water rises certain millimeter, it dewaters into the sea, I forgot the name of the sea, the sea that separates Germany, Netherlands, and then UK. And then the UK. Then it goes down. What are we doing about that? Like Lagos now, if you look at the issue of the drainage system, no drainage, somebody is bringing our water from his house, coming into the street, then where will the water go? What is even drainage in the first place? To drain, then it continues draining to somewhere. I think that's a simple English term. Somebody will just do a small drainage in front of his house, or even in terms of even the Ministry of Works trying to do a drainage. They do drainage for 1 kilometer, no continuity in terms of drainage, to have a sort of interconnectivity, then finally drop into the mega river. These are some of the things. So there is a need for us to come back to drawing board to look at cases differently. Some years back, we had a case in Makurdi. It's one of the major areas because Makurdi is upstream of Lokoja. There are a lot of theories that Makurdi flood is from River Benue, which is not. It is from the geology. The Makurdi sandstone is highly indurated. Yes, because it is highly indurated, water cannot percolate into the ground. So you have a lot of runoff. People are talking about dredging of. So the flood in Makurdi is a different model from the flood in Lokoja. So we have to develop, if it means us going with hand and cap to go to the development partner of Olba and collect deliberately to see models for particular towns. If it's able to solve, then we cannot be able to move to the next level. They will keep on every day talking about the same thing. Even after the setting of the committee by the last administration, Committee on Flood, we've read it from the media. I think some foreign companies were brought again to start developing another model and blah, blah. When we have all the experts in this country, issue of flooding is local. It's a local issue. Even since time immemorial, in our various communities, our grandparents were able to manage their peculiarity within a particular area. So that is why first take.
All right. Comprehensive, no, because a lot of things will be returning to you to give us that aspect of it. But let's come to the Director of Relief and Rehabilitation of NEMA, Hassan Nuhu. Well, they say this is the season, or well, one of the seasons where it's like you anticipate what is to come. And since you work closely with NIMET, you're able to see the warning signals that are coming up. From 2022 to this point where we are now, what lessons have been learned as to make all the stakeholders more prepared for an eventuality?
Well, just as a way of a recap, 2022 was really devastating. Over 600 lives were lost to it. More than 4.4 million people were directly affected. and about 2.4 million people were displaced, were uprooted from their homes. The grade assessment, the global rapid assessment conducted by the World Bank in collaboration with NEMA and other stakeholders, estimated a loss of over $6.6 billion, about 5 trillion naira if you convert it to naira. So it's colossal. And we have to take all the necessary measures drawing from 2022 flood. Naturally, when you manage disaster risk, you approach it from 4 angles. You avoid. Some risks are actually avoidable. Some flood risks are actually avoidable by putting the right structures, the last speaker just spoke about, using technology, using science, using various models. You can really avoid most of these floodings. Or you mitigate it by putting in measures to ensure that as the flood comes, it comes with minimal impact. Things like sensitization campaign, like contingency plan to ensure that lives and properties are saved. You can actually transfer flood risk using insurance companies. The last time we had a program in the NTA here, somebody came from the insurance industry and showed what is being done to transfer flood risk from farmers, from individuals to insurance companies. You can also retain some level of risk where avoidance, mitigation, and transfer might not hold. Then you retain that risk. By retention, it means you put the necessary safeguards to ensure that you are prepared, you are ready to respond to it timely and appropriately. And what you take among the 4 models depend on 1, resource availability, and 2, the nature of the hazard. So we in the agency, based on what is available on ground and the nature of the flood risk, we are approaching it from all perspectives. We are reaching out to those who have responsibility to ensure that these infrastructures, these models are put in place to ensure that we can avoid as much as possible. And we are using our instrumentality of the 15 offices we have all over the countries to collaborate with state governments, with local governments, to ensure that we do continuous sensitization campaigns to sensitize the communities at risk and to also brace off the responsible authorities to be prepared. These sensitization campaigns are going on. We have rolled out maps to all the 36 states based on information we received from the climate services agencies, from NIMED, from NISA. We've done a mapping showing the red areas that need to be done, something need to be done quickly. And we have disseminated this down to the states. Last week, the DG was in Akwa Ibom to meet one-on-one with the governor to show these flood risk areas. And last week, together with NIMED, we were at the Governors Forum to also do advocacy at the highest level. So we need to be prepared to know that this hazard is coming, this risk is coming, and we have to leave no stone unturned to ensure that lives are not needlessly lost. We are also dusting off our contingency plans to ensure that when it comes, we respond appropriately and efficiently.
All right. Thank you very much. And well, you just mentioned now that we are the Governors Forum. The DG NIMET also spoke about that. So what was the outcome? What were the highlights? Of course, you'd have briefed them. These are, signs that you should watch out for. These are likely, possible areas where disaster might be lurking. But what was the conclusion really, and what did you pass on to the governors, and what was their response?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, if you look at all disasters, especially climate-related disasters, happen at the last mile. And this last mile communities are either villages and communities within local governments and then other cities. So we've tried a lot of theories to be able to reach out and to state governments, at times directly through, which is always better, through the state governors, because that is the most effective entry point to states. And if we get the immediate buy-in and integration of our services, so information could get to the last mile communities within few days. And it has been established globally that if you provide effective early warning to a disaster imminent community 24 hours ahead of the striking point time, so you're bound to reduce loss of lives and livelihood by about 30%. So, and what we've been given in Nigeria is we give a lot of lead time since January. We've issued most of these warnings, information, advisories, and we've been following up also with a lot of updates on monthly basis, 2 weeks and weekly basis. And we've been attending roving seminars and workshops with enabling agencies like NEMA. We've done some downscaling with them in Uyo, as made mentioned by Alassane, and also we've attended the Nigeria's Governors Forum. Initially, we had wanted even to be part of the induction program so that we have enough time to integrate and develop a value chain between federal and state governments. So at the last meeting, we were given opportunity to talk to the governors, and we've really raised their level of alert, especially to be well prepared. And based on the agreement, I think it was established that we really need to work closely and together, especially like for us in NIMET, we have over 100 offices across the country. And then also we have capability to do state level forecast of all, not only rainfall, because we want Nigerians to go beyond looking at the negative aspect of weather, because the whole world is developing very fast and we have to queue in thanks to the policies of governments. So we need to explore other weather information and utilize them positively for our developments. And we've said this time without number, that we are so blessed. All our eco-climatic zones, you can plant crops in zone A and do another type in zone B up to the zone E, F. So, and this gives us wide angle view and potentials to develop. So we've agreed that for us in NIMET, NEMA has more than 10 offices and also zonal offices. But for us in NIMET, having learned about this program, I already came with a letter of expression of interest to work together with the 3 state governors. We've already sent the one in Katsina. So for us in NIMET is to have a focal point. And this focal point, being it either in the governor's office or as the ministry level, a commissioner, and also any relevant MDAs, so that by the time we issue our national forecast in January, we have enough time to come to the state. Our officers are very ready at no cost to be able to do state level forecast and then work together with NEMA to do state level forecast advisories and sensitization campaigns with effective advisories. Some of this information we could translate them to local dialect, and we will work with local climate change agent, environmental officers, NOAA agents, including also extension officers, so that we have a holistic approach to this. And as made mention by Dr. Ikekana, that we must begin in this country to look at our system generally as a country, but we need to look at micro watershed, what happens within a particular community, so that we develop concept, we develop ideas and projects and programs of adaptation, mitigation, developmental program based on the prevalent characteristics of such micro watershed. So we are very optimistic. And I'm sure we've had strong words from the governors that some of the issues that are beyond us will be taken to a neck. But we really need to work together and very closely. Luckily for NEMA, we're working closely. At ECOWAS level, we have what is called the ECOWAS Disaster Operational Control Room. Room was recently established by UNDRR and some other key partners. And NEMA is taking the lead also to have that. By the time we have that, all of us, NEMA, NIMET, NISA, we will be seeing each other on real time. And we wanted to have all the state governments focal points, the same as some of the focal points for NIMET. So we'll be talking to each other on real time using dashboards. So talking about the water level made mention by Honorable Commissioner. So all this information, all the stakeholders will be visualizing on real time, and will be sending advisories to different arms of governments. But we need to really work very hard and in a more coordinated manner to be able to achieve this.
All right, you are pushing for more involvement of the states,
Yes.
so they can tackle this. But let me come to the Commissioner for Environment of Kogi State and say, well, with all of this behind you, what have you put in place now to ensure that if the water keeps rising, the level keeps rising, we will avert, and I mean completely, the tragedy of 2022?
Yeah, thank you, sir. I want us to know this fact that flooding in Kogi State is gradually becoming an annual ritual that is not new to us. And if I may quickly take you down the memory lane, the first time we experienced this magnitude in Lokoja precisely, it's 1936. And so that of 2012 came. And it was so serious that honestly the effect we're still battling with, and that of 2022. And so we as a state, under the able leadership of our governor, Yahaya Bello, who has that passion for the people, no life at all, he says, will in his own time be lost. And so we have tried to not only, put machineries in motion, we have equally tried to start running even before hitting the ground running. And so we have a committee in place who is headed by the deputy governor of the state,
Okay.
who has ensured that all hands on deck to ensure that at least we tackle this problem headlong. And we have our activities spread across the one we call pre, then during and after. Yes,
right.
That's the post. And so, we have, for now, we are basically on sensitization, creating awareness and educating the people on the need for them, to quickly relocate as this problem keeps coming.
Well, what's been their attitude to all of this?
Well, it will interest you to know that some comply, some will, during the course of our interaction, creating the awareness and educating them. There are stiff oppositions that comes our way in form of, for example, a particular local government, we call it Ibaji, who believes naturally Ibaji is on a lowland. And unfortunately, they are the highest producers of rice in the state. And so you now discover that the whole Ibaji was underwater, even during the last saga. And so we go there, you tell them to move or to relocate. They tell you that that is their ancestral home and that they cannot leave. And so by the time you provide an IDP or you provide a temporary place for them, after some time they still go back because they will tell you they cannot just live there. For example, just about a month ago, a particular non-organization came around to at least contribute because it's not what the state alone can probably, and that's why we have been calling on the federal government and well-spirited and even non-governmental organizations. And when they came, guardingly, they said, okay, they want to put some structures for the victims. And when we took them to where we felt that is Ibaji local government. And unfortunately, when we got there, they told us point and plain that they cannot leave that place. And so we had to take them to another local government, like Kutunkarufi, Kogi Kutunkarufi local government. You know, and so these are things, these are challenges we face during the course of our sensitization, and you know, we do that in collaboration with NEMA and even SEMA. In the state we have SEMA, and so we do that periodically. In fact, let me tell you, as we speak, yes, precisely about 2 or 3 days ago, we had all-round discussion, you know, on Saturday precisely, not minding that it was weekend. You know, we sat to equally see how the issue of going down the communities, because that is where we have this problem. In Kogi State, about 9 or 10 local governments were badly affected.
Right.
We have Ida local government. We have Omala local government. We have Kogi Kutunkarufi. You have Lokoja local government. We have Ajakuta local government. We have Igalamela Odolu local government. You have Bassa local. I mean, these are places where it's always very difficult during flooding to even access, not to talk of, you know. And so what we try to do is to ensure that at least we put in place a rescue team. We have teams already who, by the special grace of God, because Kogi will always be on the red alert. There's no two way about that. And so we are prepared. And that's why we have this team standby on ground. Then equally, we have designed what we call desilting all the drainages across the local government. Because we know that these are basic factors, human factors, that leads to the problem we're talking about. And so we have mapped out a strategy by ensuring that all this, in fact, some who are even narrowed are being widened up now to ensure that at least it accommodates for more waters. And equally, we have designed a system whereby even our waste management is being properly handled now by engaging what we call private sector participation. So through that, we are able to ensure that at least we manage to a reasonable extent our waste management. And equally, we are in touch with, like I said earlier, that Bureau of Land, in collaboration with town planning, are always out to ensure that the buildings along the waterways are being removed. We are currently on that.
So far, nothing has happened, but you're on red alert.
Yes, because if we are not going by the data
there will
collected, there will be more casualties in Kogi State.
I always ask state authorities this question and say, how how do you deal with people? You just talked about it. People talk about their ancestral lands. They don't want to leave, even in the face of danger. It's virtually impossible for some who leave. They find an excuse to come back. Others always say that state authorities do not provide appropriate areas for them to relocate. Facilities are their challenges.
All right. Like I said, you approach and they tell you, where do we go? My response has always been that a higher ground. Your life first. Sir.
Okay.
After
the life first, what about the livelihood?
After the 2012 flooding, there was a place, will I say, infrastructural development that was put in place.
Okay.
Called flood estates. That is after the 2012 flooding. This flood estate has houses, hundreds. Equally, you have what we call flood hostel. You will now be surprised that during this flooding, you ask people to move, it becomes problem for them. Why? They believe. In fact, it's so funny that some were even, during that 2012, after the 2012 problem, some of these houses were given to victims. You now discover that they leave such buildings, or some even, in fact, so many of them have been sold. And they still prefer to go back to where they had that problem, or where they had that challenge. As I speak with you, the place is being prepared now to accommodate victims. So I continue to tell people that you have to be alive first before you now start to think of having a place as your ancestral home and that you cannot leave. So the problem is there, and I believe together we'll have to solve it.
Dr. Kana, people talk about lack of knowledge being dangerous. But in some cases, there's knowledge, there's enlightenment. But again, the other aspect of it, I have spoken to some people, and they would say, well, since the disaster didn't take away my grandparents or my forefathers, it's not likely to do much harm to me. Some people have escaped, albeit by the skin of their teeth, in such matters, and they're seen as, well, we are people of the riverine area, we are people who have lived all our lives in this place. The water will not take us away.
I think what I would say there is the issue of rule of law. If you look at the case study of China, China is a very large country on which northern China, at a point, were having a water challenge, and there was heavy population there. And their own case now, the southern part, you have a lot of water. Do you move people to where the water is, or you move water to go and meet
where
the people are? Right. So in their own case, they had to do more like create like a channel from south to north to go and meet the people. And if it happens in the course of design, your village or your town or your property is along that traverse, you have to go. That is the government decision. So the question now is, even basic things in this country, basic things in terms of discipline, this is a major challenge, and it's a general Nigerian problem. Except if we go back to the basics, to be able to remobilize ourselves in terms of rule of law, we don't want to, the politics, Honorable Commissioner is a politician, I think that is even the beginning of the litmus. That's why most of these guys, if you tell them that, during the electioneering, we are just coming back from the French. Right. You will tell them certain things, after that, you forget about them. You are Honorable Commissioner today, very active, very proactive, some of the roadmap we generated. By end of this year, if there's continuity or there's any somersault, it is all over again. So what I want to put in terms of the scientific aspect again is that take the case of River Nile, which traverses so many countries and finally moves into Cairo. Last year, I did that particular studies. If you travel from Aswak Dam, which the water moved from south to north, and the sort of the River Nile as it's going into Al Qasira, that's Cairo, you discover that they've changed the morphology of that particular place. In Sojoya, Jola Lokoja, if you are passing after the Murtala Bridge, what people have done there, I think maybe there's a need for you to go for a technical tour to Cairo and see what you've done. I think I wouldn't want to use any derogatory word on what you have done, but it's for you to go and see there. You see how if water is coming from a particular upstream going down, like Lokoja now, you should know that Lokoja is going to accumulate A, B, C, D. That like so many primary rivers, several secondary rivers, and now finally. So certainly the morphology have to be modified so that it should be wider. It's a very simple analogy. We have our bottles of water here, and what all this water to go into one bottle, certainly is going to spill. So what you have to do there is to change the morphology of that place, let it be wider so that it can take. Then along the bank of the river, you do kind of stone pitching. Go to Cairo, you see what we've done. You do stone pitching more like bench. You create first one like this, go like this, goes like this, goes like this, in such a way that you go there even at when it is raining, you see the benches just hanging. And they didn't just do it like that. It is based on predicated, based on data that has been generated for many years. So it's not just there. You see benches almost hanging almost 10 meters this way, but the water is still flowing at a lower this. This is done based on the data continuity over the period of time. So I think there is a need for us, like that of Lokoja as a case study, and then other micro rivers, even within the state, we have to start doing that. But the work we have done there, the structural work we have done there after the bridge by the left, you know what I'm talking about. How many meters high? Certainly once the water comes, it's certainly going to overrun that particular thing. So I've seen it there. I'm not a civil engineer. I'm not an architect. But once you see it there, certainly you know it's not properly done. And then with the work of NISA, NISA has placed a lot of people in my state in Lasara. We have gauges up to Umasha, and you know Umasha is upstream of that place. Now, most of these gauges they've installed, certainly if we go back to the rule of law, nobody should be around that particular place. Then if there's going to be modification, that certainly all this is going to be of the past. So except if we go back and do that, certainly it's going to be continual rhetorics, and it's more or less going to be more like reactive, so to speak.
Well, let's come to Nema. Now, when it happens, you are to the rescue. But then, again, a lot of people are beginning to see Nema as being the leaders. The agency that responds to these disasters. All they see is, well, it happens. They're going to provide palliatives for me. They'll bring in all what we need for at least a minimum standard of living. But that's not all that NEMA does. And NEMA goes far beyond that. Again, what is the collaboration between NEMA at the national level, the state emergency management agencies who are right there on ground, and perhaps at the local level as well?
Well, first of all, to add to the lingering issue of Nigerians not willing to leave areas, to move to areas of safety, I think we need to dissipate more energy in enhancing the capacity of the communities by letting them understand these issues, probably by even improving on their living conditions. all over the world. It's not only in Nigeria. The main problem with early warning system is not with the science and technology. It is more with the modus of disseminating this science and technology to the communities at risk. And more importantly, globally, not only in Nigeria, is the capacity of those communities at risk to even be able to comprehend what you are talking about. Maybe because of the level of literacy, maybe because of the level of the condition, the deprivative condition of the people. All add up to this, that as you talk and talk and talk, it makes less and less meaning. And unless you address this issue of the capacity of the communities at risk, the chain of the early warning system cannot be said to be complete. On the issue of what NEMA does beyond the palliatives, we are complementing this chain of the early warning system. Throughout the years, we've been trying to strengthen the mechanism of disseminating this information to those communities at risk. We've tried as much as possible to ensure that people see it in real terms, in maps, in reality, that these issues are there and they are coming. And we tried as much as possible to work with the states. We have collaborative meetings day in, day out with the states. We let them know that preparedness does not connote preparedness at the center alone. It's preparedness at the national, subnational, local government, and even the community level. If there is a break in the chain, it's not going to work. So you cannot effectively, you can't even contemplate on moving from Abuja to a local government in Kogi to evacuate people without this active support and the lead from the state government. So we work collaboratively, not only with the state, but with federal ministries, departments, and agencies. If there is flood issue, it's a health issue. It's a water issue. There will be issue of contamination of drinking water. We need to provide water to save the communities from getting afflicted with cholera and other waterborne diseases. It is a social security issue. You have to ensure that those who are affected, their rights are not violated, and all other issues. So we have a schema, a collaborative schema that we work with federal ministries, departments, and agencies horizontally, and vertically we work with the state, we work with the local government. Just last week we were at the NAF headquarters to solicit the support of the Chief of Air Staff to use air power in terms of if we have a repeat of what he had in 2022, we need to mobilize air power to be able to deliver relief assistance to kink areas like Bayelsa, like Anambra, where it became very much impossible to go by road. So it's a whole society approach, and NEMA is providing the umbrella as a coordinating body at the national level, working with the SEMA as a coordinating body at the state level, and local government structure at the local government level. Unfortunately, so far, in the whole of the country, only 5 states have local government, functional local government emergency management committees. At the local government level, virtually very little exists.
Okay.
So we are trying, and unless you have a system that works at the local level, most of the flood response, not only all over the world, 70% of the initial response comes from the community. So if the communities are not prepared, are not equipped, are not informed. That is why you see lives being lost needlessly.
All right, at this point, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll open the phone line so you can be part of the discussion, and whatever issues you raise, we'll address them here. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's start off by telling you the process and the procedure by which you can contribute to the discussion in the studio. The numbers to call will be on your screen. You can take advantage of those numbers and call in. And we say this every Tuesday. If you're calling in tonight and your call gets through, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we encourage you to go straight to the point so others can also get on the platform and air their views. And we also say to you, don't bother too much about the greetings. A simple hello would do. All right. Let's now bring in this report from Lokoja.
Various communities in Kogi State, including the capital city of Lokoja, have borne the brunt of extensive flooding during previous occurrences, emphasizing the gravity of the situation. The anticipated flooding projected by NIMET for 2023 has instilled fear of the unknown among residents who hope for proactive measures similar to those taken in 2022 to mitigate the devastating effects of flooding. Nonetheless, the government maintains its commitment to ensuring the safety of lives and properties.
We have gone on awareness campaign to communities living very close to the water, even if it's their ancestral homes. There may be need to go upland.
NIWA has done a lot. First, we do regular dredging to clear the channel. We are constructing levees.
Similar concerns persist for those residing along riverbanks who face the fear of displacement as water level rises rapidly. It is crucial to gauge resident comprehension of the situation and understand their expectations, particularly as this year's flood are expected to be more severe than that of last year's.
We are in July now. Last year, July, there was not like this. It was 30 August, ending of August to September that the water started coming. But this is ending of July and the water has already reached this level.
We should vacate this environment to where the government have promised us a lot. Last year, we slept at the road, so we'll continue sleeping on the main road.
In addition to relocating individuals at risk to safer accommodations, the government is also planning to provide relief efforts aimed at alleviating the hardships and inconveniences caused by flooding.
St. Michael's Primary School, which the Commissioner for Education graciously gave to Ibaji people as a camp. So they are there now in Pastoral Center and St. Michael's. These are two areas earmarked for those who have to leave their domain.
With time rapidly running out and fears escalating, both the government and residents residing along riverbanks must intensify their efforts and take immediate action to mitigate the impending disaster.
From Lokoja, we go over to Port Harcourt for this other report.
End of flood disaster have become a yearly occurrence, posing great challenges to communities lying across River Niger and River Benue alongside the tributaries. In River State, communities along Orashi coastline and environs are usually the worst hit each time the annual incident occurs. As the rain intensified this year, several communities are already experiencing flash flood. How do we mitigate this flood?
At my community level, sensitizing the people that if you know there is a stream behind their building and it's a block stream, open it up. Whatever thing you have, prepare platforms, because where the major rescue is platform where you, when the water comes, you pack your properties on top. Prepare platforms and keep address your farms early.
For now, the IDPs should be prepared for the oncoming one, and then for the indigenes, the residents of those communities, prepare in advance. Look for somewhere to stay, higher grounds, and then for your harvest, make sure you do not plant in areas where they could easily be sucked in by the flood, so that in good time you harvest your products.
In response to the 2023 flood predictions, the River State government has already set up a committee that will come up with action plan to mitigate the effects of flooding. Although the chairman and secretary of the flood committee could not be reached for comment as they were away on official duty, available information reveals that the River State House of Assembly has also inaugurated a committee to fund ways of tackling the impact of 2023 flood projection.
In all seasons, debris, sediments continue to wash into the rivers, blocking them and making them non-navigable. And so the only way to make them navigable and to deepen, the depth of the rivers is to continue to dredge.
And now let's get this one from Gombe.
The 2023 reports of Nigerian Meteorological Agency and Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency warns that some northern states, including Gombe, may experience heavy rainfall with thunderstorms in the coming month. In the case of Gombe State, the reports identified Nafada, Yamal Tudeba, and Balanga local government areas as having higher risk of flooding.
Last year we planted soya beans in large quantity, but was destroyed by the flooding. Last year we have recorded a difficult moment due to overflowing of water that negatively affected our yields.
As an effective way of mitigating the effects of the impending weather event and the life-threatening consequences, Gombe State Government, upon the release of the report, directed the State Ministry of Environment and Forest Resources to work with all relevant stakeholders and activate state emergency response and management resources towards ensuring the safety of lives and property of the people.
Presently, we have outlined so many ways upon which we can mitigate this crisis. Among those ways, first is the aggressive campaign awareness, particularly to the grassroots, to the communities. We have so far engaged traditional rulers, district heads, and village leaders. We have sensitized them.
We really appreciate our Governor Muhammad Inouye Yahaya, for constituting a committee when the state received the report of weather forecast that Gombe is among those states that will experience flooding. He immediately constituted a committee consisting of stakeholders who are responsible for emergencies responses.
stakeholders such as the State Emergency Management Agency, Gombe State Environmental Sanitation and Protection Agency, as well as non-governmental organizations, have been engaged in regular consultative meetings to come up with ways of mitigating the impact of the incidents in case they occur. This is in addition to the silting of drainages and water channels to allow for proper flow of high volume of torrential rains, especially in densely populated areas.
All right, haven't seen those reports. Now, let's come back to the studio. And here we are with the
Most of what we've been preaching, that these are reactive measures. We want to move a mile away from these to proactive measures. And that proactive measures is what Al-Hassan and other members of this panel mentioned, that let's involve all the relevant stakeholders. Let's have this structure at the community level. Whatsoever we've done at the federal level and also at the state level, if you don't have a framework at the local government level that can absorb and implement these policies into actions, into programs and activities, definitely we'll have more of information dissemination, but less of reaction by the communities, and definitely more casualties and loss of livelihoods, unfortunately.
Well, let's look at compliance now and enforcement of the law. I know that earlier on, Dr. Kada had talked about politicians not willing to do anything that will have a repercussion on the numbers when the time comes. How valid is that with you in Kogi?
Yes, I will not agree with, let me put it that way, with my brother who said, you see, I said one thing earlier. I said, your life first. The governor that I know so well, that if he could put his life on the fact that the state is well secured, and so, if again he puts his life, that no life, we should try as much as possible that no life is lost during any flooding. I think it goes a long way to tell the people that we need to do what is right. But it's not the idea of getting votes back or what have you. I just told you an example. There's a place we call Kotonkarufi. You know how difficult the terrain was last year, especially it has to do with vehicular movement. You know that it took us for like days, vehicles got stopped at that point. What did we do? In collaboration with Hyperdeck, we sat to identify the problem, the area where we have overflow. And so we went there and to see how we could channel this water. And honestly, I made bold to say that what we recorded last year may not be the same this year by the special grace of, because we have been able to do what? To find, to an extent, or we have been able to at least mitigate to an extent, the problem of that very area. And so these are efforts we are making. And so for anybody to say that he's not willing, honestly, like I said, the town planning too, they have their own way. They are working. Stakeholders, like I told you earlier too, that just on Saturday last week, that we had a stakeholders meeting where all the relevant agencies, we are, constantly, let me put it that way, constantly meeting to ensure that at least we rub minds and to exchange ideas to see to this problem that we're talking about. So, I told you that we are constantly monitoring water level. If we don't, I wouldn't have been able to come up with. And so, if we are monitoring that, and at the same time, we are equally trying to see to the forecast, the ones coming from NIME and all other agencies. And for a community to now say that because of this, they will not do this. Honestly, I don't think the government that I know in Kogi State would not be ready to take that.
Right, Dr. Kara, this is a perennial problem in Nigeria. It comes every year in, year out, and it's still there. What can be done to mitigate this?
Okay. First and foremost, the issue of interministerial collaboration, like the Honorable Commissioner is a Honorable Commissioner for Environment, and we are talking about interagency collaboration. I have not heard us mention Ministry of Water Resources at the state level, because they are the water managers in the state, which is a very big misplacement. The Ministry of Water Resources in the state is in charge of all the rivers in the state. You have the state water boards, which have water works in virtual areas where the water is, the rivers are perennial and they have dams, they have intakes there. But you discover that in all our discussion, they have not been mentioned completely. So the suggestion is that there should be more collaboration, because the managers of water in the state are not on the decks when it comes to the issue of flooding. You always talk about Ministry of Environment and then SEMA at the state level. Then in furtherance to that, I think there is a need for us for wider coverage. We will now adopt the model adopted in the health sector, whereby you have up to the primary health care. We are talking about basic health care. In the state level, you have the Ministry of Water Resources, you have the water boards, and you are aware within the last 20 years, the issue of PWASH. PWASH is up to the local government level. If we can inculcate the issue of flooding, to go back to the owners of the water, which is the Ministry of Water Resources at the state, the Water Corporation. You have PWASH up to the local government level, just like the primary health care. In such a way that when you are now advocacy for the flooding, it should be sort of it should be going along with the PWASH sanitation aspect, so that it is going to have more propagation. But the situation whereby at the state level, you are talking about, the Honorable Commissioner is talking about taking water level. Water level measurement supposed to be in the Ministry of Water Resources. That's where you have the hydrologists and hydrogeologists and all those gauges. We discovered that in most of the states, they are working parallel. And that's why most of the reports in previous programs, you discover, I have not seen a lot of Commissioner for Water Resources being brought. Most of the time, Commissioner for Environment. But you don't have Department of Water in the Ministry of Environment. I think that should be, it should be taken back to them. Then there should be more collaboration so that at least you'll be able to have a better mitigation. Then to go back to the issue of the cotton curfew I mentioned, I think there's a need. Our politics, we have to keep politics apart. I want to give case study first, like that of the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, in such a way that put in once and for all amount of money in the federal budget so that it solve the problem once and for all. That particular corridor from the Lokoja Mutala Bridge out to Cotton Curfew, that place has to be, you have to raise it up, and state money cannot do it. So you have to keep politics, issue of geopolitical appropriation should not. That particular road is one of the greatest corridors in this country. So there is a need for remodeling of that particular place. If it means before Cotton Curfew, raise it up so that all the waters will go down. Because even if you dredge, if you don't raise the road up, certainly you are still going to be in one place. So these are some of the modifications. Then the issue of the land use you are talking about. A lot of countries that have similar kind of situation. You have to start changing your building codes. You make it either higher, and then the first floor should be more like a floodplain. You create pillars like this. The first basement should be for water to flow, and then the issue of the weight of the houses. These are some of the things. Just like areas that are unstable in terms of earthquake, the kind of building you do there is different from areas that are stable. These are some of the models we have to start developing.
Well, let's come back to NEMA at this point in time. What is the response time if, well, unfortunately these disasters will occur, especially the way we're going? What's the average response time when you have an issue like this?
Well, as soon as a disaster happens, every bystander has a responsibility. If a bypasser has a responsibility to first of all alert the relevant authorities, and then to provide the first line of support. Like if a road accident happens close to NEMA's ambulance bay, NEMA will provide the first line of support. Then alert the federal road safety. If it is a terrorism or banditry attack, you alert the police that take a lead in that responsibility. So the response time is the shortest possible time any of the stakeholders get there. And it is like a 4x400 meter relay. As soon as you are there as a stakeholder, you start providing the first line of support. And as the line ministry, the lead agency, arrive the scene, you hand over the baton to it. So NEMA as a coordinating agency is not expected to be at every scene of a disaster as soon as it happens. It has an elaborate system that every disaster scenario has those who lead in that respect, those who support, etc., etc. So, like if you have an aviation disaster within the vicinity of the airport, the lead agency is PAN.
Okay.
If you have it outside the vicinity of the airport, NAMA provides the lead response. If you have a flood disaster, using the search and rescue and epidemic evacuation plan the country has, the lead agency is the fire service. But this doesn't mean a police officer around the place will not provide any support.
Okay.
NEMA will not provide any support.
Okay.
But as soon as the lead agency comes, you hand over the baton
And then you become a supporting, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like we're having a call coming through, except I can hardly make out the names. If there's a call on the line, yes, could you come up and just quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm on the line.
Right, go ahead. Tell us your name and then let's hear you.
Dr. Choba from Ibaji.
Okay.
Thank you, Cyril Stover, and thank you for the eminent panel. Two things I would request. One is Ibaji 180,000 people as of the national census. It will not move because of the productivity. You know, livelihood is tied to the river, the soil, and the productivity of people. The entire local government was submerged last year, and in 2012 as well. The reason why we are not moving is known, it's livelihood, like the Christopher mentioned. So we have a solution. What we in the Bayi floodplains have designed what we call community shelters. We need HyperDeck, NEMA, all of the agencies, including the state government, to help us build these community shelters so that we can stay within our environment and will not move out during the flooding season. The Honorable Commissioner is right that you cannot bring us to a high land and leave us there. Our livelihood will be behind in Ibaji. We are fishermen, we are farmers, and we are very productive. We just need those community shelters. And second point is the road. The only state government road to Ibaji has been washed away totally. And nobody can go there as I speak to you. So it's important that that road be reconstructed as an emergency. And with the community shelter, we in the Ibaji floodplain, we have done the design, we have the model. We are asking that the government, HyperDeck and others support us to construct it in each of the communities. And we will be able to live within our environment and continue our productivity because this environmental challenge will not go away. And of course, lastly, the dam that Dr. Kana Ahmad Abubakar mentioned, the dam, both in smaller rivers and of course for the River Benue and River Niger, needs to be put in place based on the geology of the area. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Chaba, calling in from Ibaji. Well, direct straight to the commissioner is here himself, and these are issues that we've been talking about and trying to find a way out. And this easily could be a similar thing from other parts of the country as well, what he has just said.
Yeah, like I said earlier, that thank God he has been, the last caller has been able to at least corroborate what I've earlier said, you know. The truth about it is that just like he mentioned that they are coming up with what is called, what he terms as a community shelter. Yes, I think it's a welcome idea. Of course. And so by the time I get back, I will try to ensure that I invite the last caller so that let's put heads together and see how we could. But I think it's making. But you know, like I wanted to add the other time that most of these people will tell you for economic reasons that they can only take the people along Lokoja Kutumkarufi just after the bridge. You see them year in, year out. They keep moving and come back. And so but when you go there, you tell them, the basic thing will be that, well, we have been here and we are fish farmer. And so that is their own way of at least adding to the livelihood of. So I quite agree with him that by the time we come up with this community shelter, I I think it's a welcome idea, and we'll look into that.
All right, I have another caller on the line, Musa, who's calling in from Abuja. Hello, Musa.
Hello, Sir Stoba.
Yes.
And other people in the studio. I want to say that double effort should be taken by the various agencies responsible for mitigating and controlling the flood by a kind of more sensitization and orientation of the people living within the flood area. And also, government should negotiate a kind of inter-country negotiation between Nigeria and the sister country, Cameroon most precisely, where the result of this flood emanated from the release of their dam and other things as such. So steps must be taken to address the period to which they release this dam, and there should be negotiation between the states. And also, adequate measures should be taken, disciplinary measures, because sometimes Nigeria, if you go by new approach to the issue, it may not be tackled. All these places are places that are very known, so they should be evacuated from the area that is highly susceptible to floods. By so doing, I think it will go a long way to a kind of curtail the effect of the floods. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Musa from Abuja. Well, Dr. Kana, you don't seem to agree with the aspect of the release of water from Cameroon is what's responsible for this part of it. Let's hear you.
It's not responsible. Studies have shown within the last few years that most of the flooding in the country are waters within the country. And some of this water traverses within a state and the interstates. And that was why even within the National Water Bill 2020 that couldn't pass in the last assembly, that waters are within the state should be within the purview of the state. We are able to throw the whole law, the whole thing with the baby with the bad water. So the situation there is that had we would have implemented that, some of this contribution, we have said several in this program. For instance, like the Cameroon one he's talking about, a lot of the waters that come down to Lokoja from there are coming from various states. If we have the time, we'll have started taking them rivers by rivers, some that come from Plateau Escarpment, some that come from other areas, and finally empty some even from Nasarawa, Mada Corridor and rivers, and they come. So if each of the states, let's say Benue, Plateau, are able to do something from there, then you have lesser amount of water. So it's usually misleading. Studies have shown that most of the waters are within, not outside. And even the proposal, the issue of the Danzaki Dam and the rest, and all those things are there. So
all right.
It's not true that the flood is external water. And then the issue of water diplomacy, there has been high level of collaboration between these countries. We have even gauges in some of these countries, like that from the Niger side. We have a gauge in Niamey. And so all these are taken care of.
Let's try to get this call in. Emmanuel from Otukpo is calling in. Emmanuel from Otukpo, hello. Is Emmanuel from Otukpo with us there? Emmanuel, your name is on screen. You're calling in from Otukpo. Let's hear you.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, please. This person is calling from Lokoja now. Okay, well, there is a caller on the line. Can you just tell us your name and then we'll take it from there?
Okay, my name is Fisayo.
Fisayo.
From Lokoja.
Okay, Fisayo from Lokoja. Go ahead, please.
The issue about this flood is more than what the commissioner is talking about. Hello?
Yes, go on.
I'm tired. I retired in 2012. And the only house I have is the one I built. You know, they asked us to move. We moved to here. What is my pension? They asked us to move every 3-4 months to move out.
Oh dear. Fisayo, you know what you're going to do. We still have there's still a window for you to call back. That line became muddled up and we couldn't quite hear you. You're calling from Lokoja, Fisayo, and you say you're a retiree and the only house you have is there. You started talking about being moved, being relocated. But unfortunately at that point things became unclear. So we still have a window. If you can call back, we'll take this call from Fisayo so that the commissioner here can respond to the concerns they're raising. Ordinarily that would have been the last call, but because we couldn't get through, we'll ask you to try again and hopefully it will be a lot clearer and then we can have the commissioner respond to you. But back in the studio here, let's talk about this new mechanism, flood intervention with disaster risk reduction, and Hassan can tell us about that, how it's been applied.
Well, the Sendai framework.
Right. Okay. Fisayo is back on the line. Right, Fisayo, go ahead. Let's hope you're clear this time.
Okay, please. The draft has become a yearly event. So I want to suggest to the federal government to make sure that they start the grading of the two rivers, the Niger and the Kanye, which is the two major rivers. Even if the president put it on yearly budget, so that people disturbing people will stop. Thank you.
Well, I'm not too sure. Was that Fisayo really calling back? Because, all right, because it seemed to me as if the voice sounded a little bit different. And his line of discussion was not exactly what we heard at this end. So I'm a bit confused. I'm not quite sure that was Fisayo who got back on the line. However, there is a suggestion about what government can do, and who would ask, right, now it is Fisayo back on the line. Let's hear him.
The government can mark our house.
Aha. Now this is Fisayo.
They know them pay us off. They will communicate on that place to be the better place. They are simple as that. Because if they ask us to looking to where we don't have the money, we honestly retire 2012. But if they mark our house, give us any amount, let us communicate on that place. We will leave. The suffering is too much. I have hypertension, everything, thinking about what to relocate to. But if 2012, the government marked our house before they give us money to relocate. But unfortunately, they went to build flood victims. They shared the house with politicians, not us, that we won't be the people that suffer for it. So if they can look for problem, I'm saying that I'm on the back of the university. I have a house, I'm a retiree, nothing to do. But they ask us to relocate. So where? Classroom, church, that's where we sleep in the empty floor time. It's not easy, sir. It's not easy.
Okay.
But if they mark our house, give us money, no matter how small it is, we can relocate to anywhere, put a roof on our head, and maybe we come back now.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Fisayo. You made the point. So the commissioner here will respond to what you've just raised here. Right.
Yes. Well, Fisayo, I think he made a valid point that they have their building where it's not supposed. He didn't tell us that they have where he built is where it's being allocated. Such places, nobody will allocate lands along. That's the truth. And so when you don't have paper, when you don't have genuine allocation, how do you want
title?
How do you want to be compensated? These are things they don't want to understand. Though I'm not, we have Bureau of Land, and I know, I've been telling them that they should go to Bureau of Land. If you go there, you tender, if you have your genuine paper, honestly, they will locate you.
So what we're saying now is for those
locate you
who had the proper permits and the documentation, and who were properly allocated land in where they have erected buildings, if they fall in within these places that are prone to flooding, all they need to do is go back to the Land Bureau and
tender
with their genuine papers. They will be given fresh allocation. They will be relocated.
Express.
Right.
That
so,
I can.
Well, we'll just say this for the benefit of Fisayo. If you're one of those, then of course you heard what the Commissioner for Environment said. Go to the Lands Bureau, and most probably your issue will be resolved. Right. Okay. So back to NEMA and the mechanism of flood intervention.
Well, as I've said, the global concern is to reduce the number of lives being lost to flooding, reduce the number of people being affected by flooding, to reduce the quantum of economic losses that happen year in, year out. In 2022, we lost over 5.6 trillion naira, one third of the 2022 budget. We need to bring this down to the VRS minimum. We need to improve our capacity to use early warning system. And we need to build back better. And to do this, we need to improve our risk knowledge. We should know more sufficiently about flooding. Experts have repeatedly told us what needs to be done, which structures need to be put in place. So we need to improve our knowledge of the flood risk. We need to invest in disaster risk governance. More need to be done at subnational and local government level. We need to sensitize the people the more. And we need to use effective early warning systems. So these are the trajectories that we are following as a coordinating agency, with numerous partners, with numerous stakeholders, to ensure that Nigerians' lives are saved, and we don't need to do all the running we are doing just to be able to stay in the same place. We need to go to move forward and not to be stagnant or to be retrogressive.
Right. Now, speaking of increased knowledge and enlightenment, I'll say quite a lot of this knowledge would flow from these publications we have here, which DG Naimon has brought along to the studio. And,
Thank you so much. As rightly stressed out by Alassane, that you need to get people well informed. And we're lucky in Nigeria, we're the first Met service to have started issuing country-level forecasts for more than 10 years. And we've been doing this consistently, and we've been improving upon these publications. And as I said earlier, we really want Nigerians to key into uptake of weather climate information into most of our socio-economic development. As mentioned by Al-Hassan, some of these community-based actions could even provide additional livelihood to youth. I will give an example. By the time you have climate change agent groups at the local level, and they're also extension officers. Yes. So in a nutshell, we've released this as early as January, and this is a summary of the 2023 seasonal rainfall prediction that was released in January. And this is a summary for decision makers, and it was presented at the Federal Executive Council, and we've released these copies to all the participants. We got more than 1,000 participants, and online also participants. And these are also available on the NIMET website at www.nimet.gov.ng. This is the main menu for us, 2023 seasonal climate prediction, whereby we have all the socio-economic sectors of this country and link it with this year's forecast and provide advisories: agriculture, water resources, environment, early warning, health, construction, and then also transportation. We're able to also translate this to 3 languages of Hausa. This is the Hausa version of the seasonal climate prediction for this year, and also Asotelia, this is the Yoruba, of course, version of this. And all these are available on our website, and also during state level downscaling, we also distribute this. And we have the Igbo also version. And with collaboration with state governments and partners, we could also do any language, either Pidgin, and then also any local language.
Yeah, okay. So for instance, you could collaborate with the Niger State government and get this translated into Gwagi and Nupe, and the rest of them. And if you
of course. So we've done a lot of activities to domesticate that we have evidence of climate change, and annually we release what is called State of the Climate prediction, and this one documented what happened in 2022, quite extreme, unprecedented. Some areas got more than 200% of their share in terms of rainfall. We want Nigerians to really utilize these products. For agricultural community, we have the Agromet bulletin, and all these also are available, and we do send to most of our stakeholders. And for water resources also sector, we have the Hydromet also bulletin, and all these are also very available also on our website, and also with most of our partners. Climate change has come to stay, and we, as a result of this, we publish extreme weather events, and we've seen increasing extreme weather events in this country, and we really need to be very proactive, not reactive, and wait for disaster to occur. And all this information are very much available. For the health also sector, we have a permanent relationship with the Ministry of Health and Center for Disease Control. So we also publish climate and health. Most of our diseases are climate-induced: malaria, cholera, meningitis, measles, and even the recent diseases, some of them do have some climate bearing. We provide forecasts, we provide advisories, including stability of even drugs based on prevailing weather conditions. So with this, we can predict even epidemics. We are able also for the riverine, especially the coastal community, we also have a marine forecast that we provide from our 8 marine station along the coastline. With this, we've signed an MOU with NIMASA, and we're providing also to the maritime industry. And finally, with partners in other universities, we develop a one-stop. This is the first textbook that has a one-stop information on climate change impacts, vulnerability, mitigation, and adaptation locally. And it cut across all the eco-climatic zones of this country, starting from the Sokoto Basin, the Chad Basin, the central of the country, including the extreme parts of the coastal regions. So, and this is just the volume 1. We are working to do the volume 2. And this has really shown that we have strong local evidence of climate change in the country, and we really need to work together as a nation to be able to implement climate change adaptation and mitigative actions. And of course, for us in NIMET, we're very open to partnership and We're very happy with what is happening at the federal level, and we want to replicate this to the state level because, as made mentioned by the callers and the Honorable Commissioner, with this information we can develop what is called community-based flood early warning system. And when you involve the communities, all these stakeholders, they will take the decision, and the government will robust them and then implement. And we get most of these actions implemented with no stress.
Now, just as you talked about climate change, we're winding down quickly, but okay. I just thought I should mention this. You talked about climate change being real. Yes. And you have this book here, yes. which is the first, you say, that's, you know...
Yeah, you have all the impacts, vulnerability
and all that local level. Now, we do see that in other parts, Nigeria is part of the global community. We see that, particularly in Europe now,
yes.
extreme weather has been reported with temperatures as high as 48 degrees Celsius. Sometimes around these parts we tend to dismiss that and say, well, for those areas they may be worried about 46 degrees Celsius. We have been conditioned to weather such heat waves here, and well, if they are going through a heat wave, too bad, that's not happening. But this now changes what we're talking about, because you say there are vulnerabilities locally here, which people should be thinking about in terms of extreme weather.
Yeah, because I made mention last time when I came here that Katsina single-day rainfall event, they got 30% of what Katsina received in 1 year. And that's real evidence of climate change. And even from available record, more than 50 cities in Nigeria last year had 40 degrees above degrees Celsius daily temperature of more than 30 days consecutively. We have places like Lokoja, Mina, Bidda, Sokoto, Meduguri, and Yola. And even Abuja is getting hotter, especially due to urbanization and the cutting down of trees.
Right, that's another aspect to Abuja itself, is getting hotter. Well, we're just about done with this program. Just for a quick closing comments from the Commissioner for Environment, Kogi State.
Yes, sir, fortunately, you and I know that Kogi borders about 9 states. And going by what my brother said the other time, honestly, he said most of our problems are internal. And when you have a state bordering about other 9 states, you now know that all the waters will definitely come down to Lokoja. And so we are at that risk. There's no two way about that. And we have just come to term that climate change is here with us. There's no two way about that again. And so that's why we are making this passionate appeal that let's tackle this problem from top.
Okay.
Let's have this water, the 2 rivers that I earlier said, dredged. It will definitely allow for more waters.
Okay.
Again, the issue of dams. My brother called it buffer. Some will say macro. Let's have these dams so that you at least stand as a retaining wall.
Dr. Kana, quickly.
My closing thought is I'm very impressed and happy with the brochure the DG has brought. The collaboration is all this information and other the implementation is up to the state level. Maybe I want to tell the public that there are modules now in the National Water Institute Kaduna, which is a grade B UNESCO institute in Kaduna, on which vanguards of climate change and issue of flow vulnerability programs are there, from short courses up to diploma, HND, and the rest. So maybe when opportunity avails itself to the governors forum, where NIMET, NISA, and you should try to propagate it to the governors. Let them start sending their officers for tailor-made courses so that most of these materials can be able to trickle down up to local government level, so that we can be able to reduce this kind of menace.
Right, Alasan Nuhu.
I think it's time we put the communities at the center stage. Build their capacity, communicate with them, listen to them, have programs that involve the community.
Right.
When the community begin to own these solutions, I think we'll be on the right track.
So, I would like to end it all here, and as I say, no one program can take care of all the issues. So thank you so much to our guests, Professor Mansur Bako Matazo, Director General, NIMET. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And Mr. Victor Omofayi, Commissioner for Environment, Kogi State. Yes. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Right. Dr. Kana Abubakar, the geologist, as usual. Thank you for giving us your insights.
Thank you very much.
And for Al-Hassan Nuhu, Director Relief and Rehabilitation, NEMA, well, we always pray that we would not need to call you to come in, but emergencies will occur. And so we thank you for always being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Taking care of it. And thanks to you too for being part of this program. Next week we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Continue to stay safe.